bit.
Sidon.
Sidon. And whereas another place is related to Sidon, almost every time you hear the two of them go together. Tyre and Sidon. And who's famous about being from Tyre? We just talked about him 2 weeks ago. How soon we forget. Hiram. Yes. Now you begin to see how it all fit together. Hiram gave Solomon, or sold Solomon, all the timber and all the gold and all the stuff, the fixings, and sent craftsmen to Jerusalem to build this temple. Now it's several years later. I don't know, I didn't look up how many years later, but we've gone through Rehoboam, we've gone through a couple of other Boams, and now we're at Ahab, which is the king of Israel, not Judah. Okay, there's a difference. Now there's two different kingdoms. Now there's Judah and there's Israel. Judah is the lineage that God has said you will last forever. There'll always be a person on the throne. Jesus is through Judah. Israel is the other 10 tribes. And they might as well be, I hate to say it, redheaded stepchild, but I did single that out. But that's basically the throw out. They hit the ground and they run, they scattered, they went crazy. This is where Ahab is. And I often wonder, you hire a man and you bring him in, he builds a temple, he builds your palace, you build the prince's palace, you build all this stuff, and it's Hiram, and you've got a working relationship with Hiram from Tyre, and then the sister city of Sidon. And it doesn't take too many years later, there's a princess from Sidon, which her name is Jezebel, and she shows up as the queen, married to Ahab. And I often wonder, was that the downfall, bringing Hiram in to build? You bring in people and you get into working relationships with them, it works on you. It's a weak spot. I feel like that's part, and I just feel like Hiram was the beginning of it, and she is the climax of it. Yes, sir.
Historically, because of archaeological evidence, people who built certain things like king's chambers and secret things like that, they were.
Yeah.
That's how you took care of the problem. The builders, you didn't want loose lips, and so you just annihilated the builders, and then no one knew about it.
So, but this is Solomon, the wisest man ever lived. He brings in Hiram, and now we've got a deal to deal with Jezebel. She's from Sidon, which is the sister city of Tyre. They're always mentioned together. Even Jesus mentioned together. If things had been done in Tyre and Sidon, what's been done in your city, they'd still be here. They would have repented day one. That's what he's telling the Pharisees. He's telling the Jews. So they're mentioned together. And so here we are, Jezebel, a Phoenician princess, and married Ahab. Was Ahab a good king? No, he said he did more evil than all the kings before him. Now, there's a legacy there. Yeah. You're the worst so far. You're worse than all of them put together. And there he is, Ahab. He marries a foreign, again, Solomon set the stage. It's okay to marry these foreign women and bring in somebody else. They won't affect you. Well, it did Solomon, and it has Ahab. Sir?
I don't know, maybe it's just my personality, but I get such a kick out of the way this is introduced, because I like to liken our culture to the scripture. And so let me pull it up here. In 1 Kings 16, it says, "And as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him." So that phrase, as if it had been a light thing.
Yeah.
As if it wasn't bad enough.
It's trivial.
What we say.
Merely a flesh wound. Yes, merely.
It was already bad.
Yeah.
As if that wasn't bad enough.
I'll bring her in.
He went in and dragged in more
Yes.
bad influence.
And if that wasn't bad enough, she brings with her her religion. And the religion was worshiping Baal. Now, it was found, yes. If you look in 1 Kings 17, it's talking about Elijah predicts a drought. And let me find it here. Let me see. Where is it? Okay, right there, verse 1. Now Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the settlers of Gilead, said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, surely there shall be neither dew or rain for these years except by my word. Now that's prediction. We're not going to have dew. We don't have rain for a week, but you walk out in the morning time, you find dew on the grass, don't you? And it's a little bit of moisture. Well, he said there's not going to be a dew in the morning. There's not going to be rain until I say different. Now, what I found interesting, I got online, so I looked up Jezebel, and man, wow, found a couple of eye-opener things. Jezebel brought in the worship of Baal. Baal, and then I found it kind of struck me. I just go, wow, okay. Baal was the god of fertility, the god of the crops. He was also the god of, and it named it just like Elijah said it. He was the god of dew and rain. And guess where God attacked him right off the get-go? There won't be any dew, there won't be any rain. I don't care what your God says. God said it, that's it. And I thought, wow, it was just amazing that Elijah says there won't be any, he could have said there won't be any rain. But no, he said there won't be any dew or rain. And that's the God. The Baal was the idol worshiping people of Baal. That was their God of the dew and the rain. And I thought, the first thing I think of, what does that sound like before the Israelites?
Ask that question.
What does that sound like before the Israelites? The Egyptians, the plagues, every one of the plagues attacked one of the Egyptian gods. And God said, I'm bigger than that. Dump him out of the way. I'm bigger than Baal. You're not going to have rain. You're not going to have dew. I said it. Bing, it's done. It just amazed me. I never caught that before. So that was, he proclaimed a drought through God, and God made it happen. 3 years, no dew, and that brings about what? What? A famine. He brings back. They have no crops. They're hurting. Yes. Now, when Elijah shows up later, what does Ahab call him? Troubler of Israel. Yes. Well, that's kind of like a slap in the face. Yes. Who's causing Israel all the trouble right now? Ahab and Jezebel. But he said, no, you proclaim this drought, and it's your fault. Troubler of Israel. I thought that's almost, if it wasn't so sad, it would be comical. You know, he's calling, I don't know, yeah. There's something else that jumped out I was doing while I was doing, and you can look this up for yourself because it's on the internet. I read the whole thing. And they can't put it on the internet if it's not true, right? Just like the Esquire magazines when you're checking out at Walmart, right there at my son, Dad, look, woman gave birth to a Martian. I said, son, they can't print it if it's not true. Right. He was 5 or 6 at the time. Well, he was old enough to read. Yeah. So, oh wow, I had him going. Never miss an opportunity to aggravate your kids, right? So, or somebody else's kids, but she's not here anymore. So anyway, Jezebel. If you look it up, there is a website called Jezebel. Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, come on, no. Yes, it gets better than that. I got on there and it says, reporter from Jezebel purchased curse on Charlie Kirk 2 days before he was assassinated. Let me read that again. I'll scroll back up and just read that. I had to read it. Then I got on something else and I read it. And then if I got that little red line, red writing or blue writing, I started tapping on that. I read the whole thing. These people, reporters, they hated Charlie Kirk so much because he promoted God. He promoted women having a spot in the world that God had said would be the correct way to live, a lifestyle they didn't agree with. This Jezebel website was a feminist, all pro feminist, we're the thing, this is us. And one of the reporters went to, I looked it up, but I couldn't figure out how to, Etsy. Anyway, you can buy curses on people on that website. And this woman went and bought a curse, paid for a curse for Charlie Kirk. She just wanted to irritate him and, cause him to have zits on his face when he's on TV or his shoes not matched, things like that. But no, 2 days later, the man's dead. I'm not saying but it was witches on Etsy that she paid to put a curse on the Jezebel website. I had to read that 2 or 3 times because I couldn't believe, first off, I don't believe a witch has any kind of power over somebody and especially over a godly person. Yeah, I just don't believe that. But still, the person went that far because they hated Charlie Kirk so much that they would do that. I had to read that and I said, the website was up for 16 years, and just the last couple of years, it's kind of folded because all of a sudden, no company wants to advertise on that website. They can't sell advertisement. You can't stay up. So it was ironic. They were up there for 16. I never heard about it before. Why would you? That was just weird, Why Jezebel? But feminists. They promoting people, women in leadership, women in charge. And that's Jezebel right there in the Bible. She was in charge. She run Ahab, basically. So yes, you're probably looking on your phone right now, looking up Jezebel website. But it's crazy what they did because they hated Charlie Kirk so much. We'll get a curse put on him by a witch. So I'm not saying, yeah or nay, but it was ironic. 2 days later, he's shot. But anyway, that was something that come up when I was doing research on Jezebel, and I thought I couldn't leave it alone. I got to read this thing because it just doesn't. It's unbelievable. They would go that far to silence somebody that doesn't say what they want to hear, which we're probably being right now. Somebody out there is not saying what I want to hear. That's what they're thinking. That's, God's truth has never been popular, never will be. You say you don't want to offend somebody. God's truth offends everybody because it tells me I'm a sinner. It tells me I'm not right before God. I can't do it myself. That offends me. It better offend me because when I start thinking I can do it myself, you've lost that. God will always offend you. It's just God is offensive because this new world today, don't offend anybody. Everybody gets a trophy and all that kind of stuff. No, God is offensive. If He doesn't offend you, then you're not listening because He's got to touch your heart and say I'm wrong and He's right. So anyway, that was free. Okay, Jezebel. She has shown up. She had brought Baal worship. They built temples to Baal. This is full blown. This is the Israelites are like, there's some Israelites are not taking this well. She has had the prophets of Israel killed. Now I kind of wonder because Jeroboam, first thing he did was get his own prophets, his priest. Okay, so whether it was a priest that Jeroboam, that lineage that anybody can be a priest in Jeroboam's time. So I don't know if it was priests that taught half of what she taught, or taught half of what Israel should have been listening to. I don't know. But anyway, she had the priest, the prophets killed. I think it might have been they were legit prophets of God, because Elijah said, I'm the only one left. No, you're not the only one left. God's always got his prophets. Something else that I found it kind of jumped out at me was the fact that when I love the story. Where was it in where he had the 400 prophets all show up, and they're going to have the two altars. They built the two altars. We're going to have a contest. Everybody says Baal's right. I say that Jehovah God is right. We're going to have a contest. Let's see. You get your oxen, you cut it up, you put it on the altar, but don't light a fire. I'll do the same thing, but you go first. So they put the oxen on the altar. Don't light a fire. This is going to be a sacrifice, but you're going to pray to Baal, and he's going to consume it with fire. And the prophets they said till evening, 6 o'clock, all day long, they're praying. And Elijah starts playing with them. Well, maybe he's going on a journey. Maybe you need to talk louder so he can hear you. Maybe he's asleep. And they kept dancing around the altar and praying, to Baal to bring fire down to take this and prove you're real, until evening. Elijah said, okay, you've had enough of that. Now, he cuts his oxen up. Oxen's a big animal. Cut that thing up, put it on the altar, put it on the sticks. First, he had to build an altar. He had to because they tore the thing down. Altar to God. No, we got to get rid of that. He builds the altar out of the 12 stones like they would have done. He gets the wood on there. He puts the oxen on there. And he tells them, go get 4 pitchers of water. Well, he dug a trench around the thing. Go get me 4 pitchers of water. I don't know how big a pitcher was, but I figure, okay, tea pitcher? I don't know. It might have been a big pitcher. 4 of them. Dump it on the meat. Dump it on the meat. Go get another one. Dump it on the meat. Go get another one. No, 4 more. That's 12 right there. 12 pitchers, and said the water is drenching down on the rocks, on the stones. It's filled the trench up, and he prays to God. Show him who you are. And then the fire from God come down, and it's done. The oxen is burned up, gone, vaporized. The wood's gone, the stones are gone, and the water's gone. Right there, gone. And he said, how you like that? Everybody, God's real. And then he went down, grabbed those false prophets. We're going to kill them, kill every 400 of them. They took them down to the river and killed every one of them. False prophets. Then Jezebel had a fit. Yeah, you killed all my prophets. I'll make you deader than they are by tomorrow, or I'll be the same. Well, he proclaimed a future, this is what's going to happen. She wasn't even buried. No, she wasn't even buried. I thought that was pretty interesting, the fact that was it Elisha or Elijah that prophesied that she would be, because they ran right together. I think it's Elijah, I think. But he says, I think he told Ahab, you're going to be killed. Your wife, the queen, the evil one, she will be killed. Said dogs will lick up your blood when you die. She won't even be buried. Well, he was killed in battle, about the 3rd battle in from this happening here, and got stuck. He was smart. He hooked up with Judah, the king of Judah, and we've got a problem over here. I can't take care of it. Will you help me? King of Judah, I kind of wonder if that was a good move on his part. King of Judah said, I'll help you. Well, Ahab said, well, you wear your royal robe, and I'm going to dress up like a common soldier. So they won't be looking at me. They'll be looking at you. That's what he's thinking. And it worked. So the enemy that they were trying to overtake, they chased Ahab down. He squeals. No, they chased down the other king of Judah. Forgot what his name was. But he squealed like a little girl. I'm sorry. No, no, that's not Ahab. That's not who we're looking for. They leave him alone. And just a random archer pulls the bow back and lets it go. That's the way they would probably done that then. And the arrow sticks Ahab between the joint of his armor. I don't know where, but it stuck him where it hurts. It hurts. It hurt bad enough. He told his driver of the chariot, "Get me out of here. I'm hurt." They propped him up all day long, because if the king goes, the army would give up. End of the day, he's dead. They take him back, I think Samaria, that's the capital. They take him back to Samaria. He's dead. They wash the chariot out with water. Blood flows out. The dogs come and lick up his blood, just like Elijah told him it was going to happen. Jezebel, Jezebel, what's the chance? Whatever. I have to give her credit. She brought in a false religion, but she would not give it up. She was dedicated to that religion. No matter what she was told, what she was shown, evidence. If you were standing there watching two altars being presented before your God and for the living God, and the one that's living God took care of everything, wouldn't you say, well, maybe I need to rethink what I'm doing? Not Jezebel. She was dedicated to Baal worship, which I give her credit for that. She was dedicated, but hard-headed, stubborn, and when you're wrong, you're wrong. And it reminds me a lot of people today. People today, they can read in the Bible, but they won't do it the way they want to do it. Don't read the Bible and obey the gospel. Don't obey what the Word of God says. I really don't like what it says. I'll do it this way. It's the same thing Jezebel did. She's been proven that God is a living God. God is the correct God. God is the only God. And yet she still Baal worship. So you got to give her credit in that respect. She's very dedicated to what she believes in. But she's also dumb because she won't change her mind when she's presented with the facts. I think that goes with what we talked about the other night about those that close their eyes and won't see, stop their ears up and won't hear. That's the ones that are truly deaf and truly blind. And there she is right there. She won't see. She's got her mind made up. She won't. That reminds me of my grandpa. My dad said, he always said, you don't confuse me with the facts. My mind's made up. And that was my grandpa. So, yeah. He wasn't.
If I may?
Yes.
Earlier, I think I heard you say that Baal was known as the god of dew and rain.
Yeah.
But I could tweak that just a little bit. Certainly the dew, but he was not the god of rain as he was storms, which includes rain.
Okay.
But it's important to me because of my ridiculous brain. Well, if he's the god of rain, why could you ask him to send fire? Because he's the god of storms, if you look it up.
Okay.
Which includes
lightning.
Exactly. So it was in his purview if he was real.
Okay.
Could he send down the fire of lightning? Of course, if he was real.
Yeah.
And secondly, in that story, in his story of being a God, our God is the God. He is the God of this and that, and this other God's the God of this and that.
Okay,
and they settle for such less of what a real God is.
That was also something brought up that if you read where at the same thing with the altars, let me read what it says here. Okay. No, that's the wrong one. I'm reading about the drought. Where's the altar here? Left the oxen ran. Yeah, right there. Okay, if you look in 18, 1 Kings 18. Verse 36 said, at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, Elijah the prophet came near and said, O Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, today let it be known that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord. He's praying to God about consume that altar, that sacrifice. He said, answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering, the wood, the stones, the dust, licked up the water that was in the trench. When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, the Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God. Then Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape. So they seized them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon and slew them there. Now Elijah said to Ahab, go up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of a roar of a heavy shower. So Ahab went up to eat and drink. Elijah came up to the top of Mount Carmel, and he crouched down on the earth and put his face between his knees. He said to his servant, go up. I think I've missed it. That's not what I'm wanting here. Got to back up some. There was something, I read it. Anyway, I thought I read it. He made the comment that, okay, y'all need to make a choice between Baal and Jehovah, God. You can't be splitting, and that was what they were doing. The Israelites, they believed that God was real, live, but He was the God of the desert. He was a God of power. He was a God of war. They believed that God had certain things, but they also believed that Baal was the God of reproduction, the God of fertility, the God of storms, of rain. So they believed in both of them. And that, sir?
You wanted verse 21.
Is that what I'm looking for?
18:21.
Nope, that's not it.
Between two opinions?
Oh, okay. I'm looking in the wrong chapter here. 18:21. I was at 20:21. Yes, I had it underlined, but I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, yeah. Elijah came near all the people and said, how long will you hesitate between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow Him. But if a Baal, follow him. But the people did not answer him a word. That was what they do. They would believe that God did this, but Baal did this. So they kind of overlapped. And that's what he meant. How long will you hesitate between two opinions? Which one is it? They can't both be right. And that's what that caught me because I'd read where they believed that God did this, this, and this, but Baal did this other stuff. So they were like, we got them both. We got them all. Everything's covered because we got both gods. And that's what Elijah's telling them. How long will you hesitate and be wishy-washy? Just, yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking maybe that's why God had in His commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
No other God before me, beside me, anywhere. He's the one true living God, yes. And He proved it when they didn't get Baal to do anything. Yes. So that's what He said when He told them, how long will you hesitate between two opinions? Is it God or is it Baal? Is it God or is it Baal? I don't know. Let's take both of them. Well, that's what they were doing. And that was one of the things I found online, that's how they operated. We can take both and we'll have everything covered. Cover all your bases. So that was another thing that this is all because of Jezebel showing up and bringing in a false religion. And we've said it before, you get somebody up on this table, it's easier to pull them off that table than it is for them to pull you up on that table. Jezebel was on the floor. She was as low as you can go. And she pulled everybody down with her. Okay. Okay, when Jezebel finally, I think I read it was something like 10 years after Ahab was killed, Jezebel finally got caught up with. Jehu, I believe, was elected king.
Yeah, he was the one who rose into the city.
Yeah, he rose into the city, and Jezebel heard he's coming. So what did she do? She got her face on. She put her makeup on, fixed her hair, put her best dress on, and And he rides in, and she's up in the window, and she says, "Is it peace or war? What are you coming for?" You know, hi, yeah. And he sees the other men up there, the eunuchs, the helpers, the people who worked in the palace. Are you with me? Throw her down. And apparently some of them believed in God enough and saw that she was evil and threw her down. Messed up her makeup.
And I think that's an interesting point, that there's, you know, an evil person usually doesn't treat staff very well.
No.
And I imagine that she had a reputation, so she was obviously power hungry, and she controlled her husband, she controlled just about everything. And so, you can understand where, and God had predicted it anyways,
Yep.
that's really the key.
Well, it said that they threw her down, and I'm trying to find it. Is it in 2 Kings?
Blood splattered all over the place.
It just splattered everywhere. I mean, I don't know how high up she was, but she
Horses, and then the horses
trampled her to death. She was probably already dead. So Jehu goes, and I think it's funny, going in, ate and drank. And apparently I'm done with this woman, we're done. He came to see her. She put on her makeup, adorned her head, looked out through the window. Then Jehu entered the gate. "Is it peace, Zimri, murderer of your master?" He looked up at the window and he said, "Who is on my side? Who?" So 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. Then he said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down. And her blood spattered on the wall and on the horses, and he trampled her under her foot. I think that might have been Jehu. So, yes, and then when he had gone in and ate and drank, then he said, "Go now and see to this accursed woman and bury her, for she was a king's daughter." Little respect. She's a king's daughter. So what they do, they go to bury her, and what they find, Steve? They said a piece of her head, the palms of her hands. I don't know how you do that, but her hands and her feet. Everything else is gone. The dogs that ate her just like predicted. They didn't even bury her. That's that was one of the big deals. Look at Joseph. When you bury my bones, you take them out with you. The burial was very important to the Israelites. I guess it might have been important to Phoenicians. All I know is they didn't get a burial.
I think there was something about it that God didn't want anybody to go and worship where her grave was.
Yeah.
That happens to there's a lot of people who have become famous after they die. People, their reputation is greater than when they live.
Yeah. Well, look, you look at people like Elvis, Graceland. There's people go there all the time just to see where Elvis used to live and things like that. So if they had found where Jezebel, there would have been people going to her grave and basically honoring her. And there was no honor there. She was accursed. She was cursed by God, basically, which is a whole lot stronger than a bunch of witches on Etsy cursing somebody.
It's not even close.
Not even close. When you get cursed by God, you're toast. And
because one of the reasons is it's going to happen.
You just don't.
It's absolute.
You think maybe she'd figure, well, it's been 10 years since Ahab died. He's forgotten this. Maybe Baal had a short memory, but God doesn't have a short memory. God said it, it'll happen. So yes, that was but she had brought in Baal worship, and it's not going away. This is something that goes on for years and years and years, because once you reach that low, it's hard to come out of that. We read on 83 there, it says, Baal worship in later Israelite history. Hosea suggests and Jeremiah depicts the debauchery and excesses that developed in the Baal worship of Baal because of the sexual overtones of Baal worship. It was easy to use the metaphor of Jehovah's jealousy and adultery or prostitution to describe the problem for Israel. Due to its official establishment as a state religion in the north, for a time during the reign of Ahab and Jezebel. That was about 850 BC. Israel struggled with Baal worship until the time of the exiles, especially in the more agrarian areas of the northern kingdom, largely due to Jeremiah's insistence that Judah would also fall because of its lack of commitment to God, exemplified in its dabbling in the Baal worship. The problem seems to have faded after return from the exile in 538, while there were traces of it later. Baal worship was never again the problem that it was prior to the exile. Judaism that emerged after the exile in the reforms of Ezra and Nehemiah was passionately monotheistic and has remained so ever since. So basically, once they got cured, they were cured. The only problem is they got so staunch in the Old Testament when Christ showed up, they can't let it go. Even though the Old Testament, the scriptures prophesied and showed who Christ would be, and there he is, and he's doing everything the scriptures said he would do, and yet they still, that sounds like Jezebel. I'm looking at an altar that just got burned down to nothing because God said it and did it, and I still can't accept it. You got the Pharisees, the scribes, and the Sadducees looking at the scriptures. They're seeing Christ do the things they read about, and they still can't accept it. So it's, you say, well, Jezebel was so evil, but you got people in the New Testament who was the same way, hard-headed, won't change, can't accept what's the truth. If you don't accept the truth, well, there's no hope for you. So we got about 10 minutes. I remembered we have a sing night Wednesday night, right? So we got to do this whole lesson this morning. So we're going to do the questions now. I told her I was going to get her to do all the questions. Okay, match the column A with column B. Who was Jezebel's father? Ethbal. Yeah, Bel. Ethbel. Which was, you see Bel in his name. He's like, the king is from, he's kind of like Pharaoh. In the Egyptians, one of the Pharaoh's name was Ra, or something of that. They had Ra in their name because Ra was the sun god. The same thing with Ethbel. Jezebel's assassin. Jehu. I thought it was the horse he rode on, but never mind. Jezebel's city. Sidon. And the other city right next to Sidon was Tyre. Okay. Jezebel's victim. Naboth. We haven't even talked about Naboth and his vineyard and the way that she manipulated. She was cunning. She was nasty, a liar, you name it. She was it. And she had a man killed because he would not give up his inheritance. And the Jews at this time, they were given the land by God. And he said, that's your family inheritance. That is your family's piece of property. I don't know how big it would have been, but that's your family. You don't give that up. And even if you sold it in 49 years, it's coming back to your family. And Ahab wanted that piece of property because it's right next to his palace. And he wanted that property, and it was a vineyard. And what did he want to do with it? Yeah, I caught that. He wanted to make it a garden so he could have vegetables for his house. Well, you tear up a bunch of, he didn't even want to keep it as a vineyard. He wanted to make it a garden, a vegetable garden. That's kind of like, grapes versus vegetables. To me, that was almost another insult right there. I mean, I'm all for carrots and cabbage and all that good stuff, but still, grapes that was part of their heritage, the grapes. But no, he wants to tear that out and put in a garden. He wouldn't give up his inheritance. That's a lesson for the future right there. Giving up your inheritance for what? We got a future inheritance. Are we going to give that up for a vegetable garden? But he wouldn't give it up. Ahab acts like a 5-year-old, didn't he? He won't do it. Just won't give me anything. Just go home and lay on the bed and pout. Jezebel took care of it. She said, what's wrong? Well, he won't give it to me. I'm the king, but he won't sell. He won't even trade with me. Nothing. Don't worry, I'll take care of it.
I think too, it proves, number one, we see this with the past president with the auto pen and Joe Biden, but I think we see who was running the country or who was making the decisions when Ahab couldn't. She stepped up.
Oh yeah, I think she made decisions the whole time. Yes, she didn't know her place. I'm not trying to belittle women for all you in the TV land out there. It's just God has a place for men and women.
Ahab didn't know his place either. He didn't step up.
Exactly. He was at fault too. If you're not going to be the man of the house, you got trouble. She took it and run with it. And she had Naboth killed. And then she went back to Ahab and said, you get it. He's dead now. You can go you got your vegetable garden. She had him killed on lies. You know, I thought of Christ. They had false witnesses. They're going to use false witnesses against Christ to be able to execute him. And are you the Christ? Yes, I am. We don't need those false witnesses. We don't need witnesses. They were false. We got him. He's already said it. He's blasphemed. So they had what they wanted. But it was false witnesses that put Naboth to death. Same thing with Christ. They had the false witnesses all lined up for it. So yes. She was just a nasty person. And I'm going to say we have nasty people today, but we have people that carry some of her traits. Are you so hard-headed and stuck in what you believe that you won't believe the truth? Carrie, you got your hand up.
I Googled it. How many names in this country people name their daughter Jezebel? It's outside of the 10,000 top names. There's only 500 and 600 people in this country that have been named Jezebel.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody.
Why would you do that?
That's why it caught me by surprise when I found out there was a website named Jezebel. Why would you do that? And why would you even advertise on a website named Jezebel? So, yes. So that's the end of Jezebel. She got what she had coming to her. God promised it. You know, that's the sad thing is God makes promises. He keeps them, whether they're against you or for you. So we've started that. Let's do multiple choice. Who was Jezebel's husband? Ahab. Who was the prophet that saved 100 other prophets in Elijah's day? Obadiah. Which of the 7 churches of Asia had a woman who John compared to Jezebel? How much? C. Yes, Thyatira. Correct. What would not be said about Jezebel after she died?
Here lies Jezebel.
Here lies Jezebel. No, she went to pieces about it. I'm sorry. She got it. What is the Hebrew form of the name Jehovah? Yahweh. Yes. So that's we've got an example. Everything in the Bible is examples for us. We got an example to avoid. You know, we see Jezebel as such an evil, nasty person. Are we carrying any of that with us? Do we have any of that? There was a thing on the web, on the internet, the spirit of Jezebel. That's what they call. And they say that you've got traits here. How many of those traits have we got? That's where we have to look at ourselves every day. We have to look at ourselves and see, have I got that? You know, look at the Bible. Look at the Bible and examine the scriptures. Examine yourself. Look like Paul said. You look in the mirror. You looking at the scriptures. Look in the mirror. Am I self-examining? As a congregation, we need to look at the scriptures and are we following what God said? We have to be looking over our shoulder and looking at ourselves every day to make sure, are we being hard-headed like Jezebel? Somebody shows us the truth and says, no, that's not, I don't believe that. I just can't believe that because well, it's right there. We've got to look at ourselves and make sure we're not carrying some kind of trait from Jezebel with us in a congregation or as a person. So that's what I get from Jezebel is a warning. It can happen. Any more comments or questions? Because we're just about out of time. Okay, we will